Welcome back to the channel. Thank you all for hanging with me on this Tuesday. So this is the time of year where you have to decide, am I just going out looking for bites, where that's a good plan a lot of times because of how tough the fishing is, or am I going out there and just focusing on big fish? And that can also revolve around how tough the fishing is. If you try all these baits that I'm going to give you today and you're not catching a good amount of fish, then you probably should just go and target big fish. And I've seen this a lot in the month of November, where go big or go home. Now, that's not always the best way to fish, and it's not always that fun. So let's talk about how can you go out in the month of November and just get bites, because that is going to be a way to sometimes catch big fish as well. You know, you're going to get some opportunities along the way, but it's good to just find some areas. Fishing is constantly changing. One day you may find some fish on the baits I'm going to give you, and you can go back there tomorrow, pick up a big fish bait, and catch big ones. So it's going to change. Changes by the hour this time of year. So let's talk about how to locate some fish and catch some numbers, because that's going to be a really good starting place, especially when you get to a new lake. So when you have wind, when you have flats, which is going to be where predominantly the fish are at this time of year, a lipless crankbait is going to be a really good player. Now, it's important to mix in the correct sizes in the correct depth ranges. So you may get in a situation where you're out in 7 feet of water. You're going to have to go with your 1 ounce, your 3/4 ounce, and there's going to be times where you're in a foot of water and the only size that you can throw is the quarter. So very important to have all sizes. They all catch big fish. They all catch numbers. But this time of year, it's just a really efficient way to go looking for bass. And they love it. It just seems like this bait catches a lot of fish this time of year. So this is what I'm going to look for on those days where I know fish are probably hunkered down in the bottom and I have a lot of wind. So this is a bait that you want to be making contact with the bottom. Could be a shell bed, could be a grass bed, whatever you have in your lake. You need this bait ricocheting off it. So lipless crankbait, you can throw it a mile. It's going to work in every condition except for those slick, calm days. When you have those slick, calm days, then the lipless probably isn't going to play. Those days it'll still play if you have some clouds roll in. Those days it'll still play maybe the first hour of the morning, the last hour before you get off the water. But if it isn't real windy, I'm going with these bigger, broader, shallow running crankbaits. So this is the most versatile shallow running crankbait you can throw because of how buoyant it is. So this is a BDS2 fat. They make the BDS fat in all sizes. You can go down if you have smaller shed. I like this a little bit bigger size just because of how buoyant it is, and I can fish this in all situations and all types of cover. So really good around laydowns, really good around isolated wood like stumps and grass, all different types of grass, no matter what you have in your lake, and docks. So I can go down a bank that may have some grass, may have some pads, and I don't have the right fishing conditions for all those other baits and get bit on this. Then I come by a dock. I don't have to set it down. I can fish that dock. I can burn this bait if I want to fish it really fast, try to get a reaction bite, try to get a fish to swim out from underneath the shade and get it, or I can fish it really slow. Let's say that grass is starting to top out. I can fish it in places where I necessarily can't throw a chatterbait, or maybe I'm just not getting enough of that condition, like dinge in the water, a little bit of stain for that swim jig. This is going to be that bait that I can pretty much put in all those places where they just won't fully commit to those other baits. And then the other positive, talk about this all the time, but I'm probably not going to shut up about it, is treble hooks. I'm getting to a point in certain situations, maybe fishing pressure has a lot to do with it. Maybe you've had a tournament at your lake. I like treble hooks. I think treble hooks are going to catch you a lot more fish because fish just seem like they slap at it. You got to imagine with forward-facing sonar and live scope, fish are being caught at rates that we've never witnessed before. So a lot of fish that may have only been caught one time or no times potentially could be caught 3 or 4 times before they come and hit your bait. So they've seen a lot of baits. They've been caught a lot. Treble hooks, they don't need to fully commit. A lot of times you're going to get one hook in them. That's all you need. This is going to be a big player for me. So now there's going to be situations where the fishing is even more tough than how I just talked about. So for that reason, crankbait, you may be giving them too good of a look at it. That's not something you want to do. That's why I always go to a fluke. A fluke is going to work anytime you have fish that are in a funky, tough to catch mood. Fall. That's what you have a lot of times, especially when you have an area that may be really good, but it's been good for a couple weeks. Boats are coming in. You sometimes have to pick up a bait like a soft plastic jerk bait, a fluke, grub you out some fish. So it's important before it's too late to know that, oh man, this is just one of those freakish days where everything's horrible and you can't catch them doing anything anywhere. You pick up a bait like this and you just grind. Fish it fast, fish it slow, figure out what they want, but this will get you bites when nothing else will. Okay, so soft plastic jerkbait, very versatile. You can fish it shallow, you can make long cast, you can make short cast, you can fish around any type of cover. But the downside with the fluke is if you may have a lot of wind, it's just not the easiest bait to throw. I'm fishing a fluke with no weight on it, just an extra wide gap hook, a 4-aught, and I'm not putting anything on it to keep that bait up in the water column, because that's where I think most of those fish are feeding. They're looking up, they're feeding up. I want that bait up, and you may have a lot of wind. The cover you may be fishing may be vast. This is the time of year on grass lakes where grass just grows everywhere. So a lot of those places that have a defined edge earlier in the year are just kind of choked out, but then the grass is starting to die. So there's good clumps where those fish will set up, but you have no idea where they're going to be because they're feeding on shad. They're swimming all over those areas, chasing the shad, and they're not just stopping anywhere. They're just going. So you got to just cover a bunch of water. And if you really want to make long casts, that's where I go with the swim jig. So swim jig can be fished a bunch of different ways. This is basically just a compact swim bait with a skirt on it to give it a little bit more of a shad profile. So what I like about the swim jig is I can throw it a mile. I can fish it a bunch of different ways. I'm the one implementing the action. So if I want to pop it and give it the shake, I can do that. If I want to slow roll it like I would fish a spinner bait, but I may not have the correct conditions for that, I can fish it slow. So this is a bait that you can do everything with, and then it's going to fish everywhere. If I want to skip it under docks, or I want to go throw it in a pad field and everything in between, any place I put those other baits, I can do that. So this is one of those baits where maybe you're just in a situation where you need a super long cast. You can throw a swim jig a mile. So I like the swim jig over the just straight swim bait, which you can rig up both. Why not? Put a little Kitech or a Rage swimmer on just a jig head and throw it around. I just feel like when you start looking in the water, you can take like a translucent blue glimmer skirt like I have on this bait, and it's going to give that a little bit of that bigger thread fin or maybe even a gizzard shad profile. And when you're popping it, moving it, there's a lure that skirt gives that you're just not going to get throwing a single swim bait. I feel like with that weed guard, it's a little more weedless, grass, wood, whatever you're fishing around. So swim jig for me is going to be a big player this time of year for numbers. You'll catch big ones on all these baits if you're in the right areas, but these are those good baits where they're not super finesse, but they will find you fish and find you good areas to then maybe pull out some of those bigger fish baits that I'll be talking about tomorrow. So this is the time of year you're going to be scratching your head at the end of the day going, man, I probably fished way too aggressive. I should have chilled out a little bit and put some of those number baits in my hands more because I knew I was in some good areas. I know there were some fish caught in those areas. I just got hard-headed and didn't rely on the good old-fashioned fish catchers. So try that, guys. Good luck to you, and I'll see you on the water.